Hey, welcome to the Digital Remodeler podcast. I'm so glad you've chosen to join us today. And with me today is Karan Dhillon. I hope I said that right. Did I get that correct?
Pretty good, Carl. And I said your name right too.
You sure did. And he is the CEO of the Contractors Coach. We met here a few weeks ago and really felt like it'd be a great thing to get him on the podcast and really talk through the business side of things when it comes to a remodeling business. So, Karan, welcome. And if you would, just tell us a little bit about your background, why you chose to start working with contractors, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Yeah, Carl, thanks for having me. So like we mentioned, we met a few days ago and we realized that we have a lot in common. We're working with the same types of people, people who own construction companies, and a lot of things that we do are synergistic. So the way I got started into this, my background is actually I got my MBA from Michigan State. Then I went and worked for a bunch of software companies as their marketing person. And then I decided I've had enough of that, lots of travel, and I quit my job without realizing that the year was 2008. So you can expect what happened there. It was a struggle. And, I started working with different businesses because I'm like, hey, if I can help big companies grow, I can help small companies grow. And so initially I followed the first rule of sales, which is what? Find people with
Yeah,
money.
so you got some money. That's right.
Yeah. So we work with, lawyers, doctors, plastic surgeons, everybody, because everybody was suffering back then. But those people are a little bit of a challenge to work with just because of their personalities. Because generally the person who becomes a lawyer or a doctor is somebody who's like an A student, and they don't like other people telling them that they are doing something wrong, especially around their business. At the same time, I started working with contractors, and there's like three contractors we worked with. There was two GCs and one plumber, and the experience was very different. These guys were humble. They were so willing to learn, listen, and best of all, they would implement. Because as a contractor, you're action oriented. We would tell them to do something, they would actually do it. I'd be like, this is amazing. you know and what happened is that this is around 2009-10. All three of those contractors doubled in size. The plumber did so well that he actually started two new companies. And that's when I took a look. I'm like, this is very unusual, especially given the environment where their peers were going out of business. And so that's when we realized we have something. And so in 2012, we formed the Contractors Coach. And so since then, we developed a process of business coaching that is specifically focused on people who own a company in the construction space, general contractor or trade. And since then, we worked with about 600 construction businesses, and the results have been very nice.
Very good. Well, let's kind of walk through the journey of a contractor, and of course you and I meet contractors at all levels. But it seems like a guy gets a vision. He wants to break free of working from somebody else. He wants to have a little more control over his destiny. So he decides it's time to go into business. I call him Chuck in a truck. He's got his pickup truck. He's got his tools. He knows how to do the work. Sticks a sign on the side of the truck, and off he goes, knocking doors, handing out flyers, doing all those things, and he's off to the races. So let's talk a little bit about his journey from there. So what are some of the things that in your own experience working with these contractors? What are some of the challenges they start to face as they grow? And what are kind of those next, if you will, milestones that they hit that causes a bit of a shift in the way they operate?
Yeah, so you described an excellent way of how people get into construction, which is they're working for somebody. They're like, hey, my boss doesn't know what he's doing. I can do this way better. He's doing this wrong. And then they decide to start a business for themselves. Either that or they inherited, or they've even been doing this for like 20 years the same way, right? Either way, the challenges end up being the same, which is it's at the foremost, it's a mindset issue, which is most people in construction think the way to be more successful is either I do my job really, really well, then I will be successful because reviews will come in and everybody will see how amazing I am, and then people will just line up out the door to work with me. Or they think that the only way to grow is to work harder, which is to spend more hours in my business. And both of those obviously have self-limiting issues, right? Just because you build a better mousetrap doesn't mean anybody cares about buying it. And the other thing is that, if you just think that being more successful means working harder, there's only so many hours in the day. And after a while, that strategy runs out. And so that's when most people, start to wonder is like, what do I do now? I'm already working 12, 16 hours. I'm doing my best work. My business only got to a certain level. And, the way I explained this to people, especially I remember the plumber, what I explained to him that the skills you need to be a good plumber have nothing in common with the skills that you need to run a good plumbing business, which means you could almost know nothing about plumbing and be a very successful plumbing business owner. It sounds, counterintuitive, but there's nothing, that is so true that most people don't realize it. That's why when you see, because I came from like the Fortune 500 space where you have CEOs of a dog food manufacturing company one year will go and start running a residential company the next year and have phenomenal results, right? Because it's not they know anything about dog food or they know anything about building a house. Those have nothing in common, but they understand the business systems and the business processes they need to build a successful company. So having seen that, I brought the same ideas and mindset into the people that we work with, which is, look, the first thing you need to understand is that you are not a contractor. If you think you're a contractor, you have a problem. Because then what does a contractor do? They want more work. So then you will just go find looking for work, right? Or looking for more work, I mean. And then you'll find it. And then you'll be busy. And then you won't have time to find more work. And then you'll do the work. Then you won't have any more work left. Then you have to go find more work. You see the cycle. Versus just understand that you actually are a business owner. You own a construction business. And your job is to then develop the mindset and the behaviors of somebody that actually owns a business. And that pattern of thinking and that pattern of behavior has almost nothing in common with somebody who applies a trade. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's interesting what you're describing there. I think a lot of contractors don't understand that what got you to the point you're at today is not what's going to get you to that next level. There are new things you're going to have to learn and implement to get beyond that. So great thoughts. Let's continue on that path.
Yeah. So, when they start working with us and we explain to them like, okay, this is what we're talking about. We're actually talking about helping you develop a business around your skill set or your trade. And in order to do that, I keep mentioning mindset a lot. What you have to do is you have to really start thinking differently. And what that means is you have to understand that your business exists in 3 time zones. There is the past, the present, and the future. And you have to look at every activity that is going on in your business and put them in these time zones. So, for example, if you look at any business, look at its past. Okay, what activities of a business represent its past? All the bookkeeping, right? Accounting. The only reason you have any bookkeeping or accounting issues is because everything has been done. You're just trying to like match the numbers. That's something that happens in the past. Tracking all of the budgets, how much we spent here, how much we spent there on an ongoing job, right? It's not quite to the bookkeeping level yet. The work in progress tracking, even that's only about things that have already happened, right? Tracking cash flow, sending out invoices, collecting money. All of that stuff also represents what's happened in the past, right? So all of the back office functions that happen, in any business, especially in a construction company, all represent the past. Now, if you look at what's going on in the present in a business, anything that's an ongoing job, right? Once a job's been sold, all of the project managing, the budgeting, the scheduling, the punch lists, the customer satisfaction issues, all of those represent the activities that happen in the time zone of the present. These are things that are happening now. Then there's the future of the business. So what determines the future of the business? That is your sales activities, right? How many people are you actually talking to and bidding? Those will result in actual signed contracts. Before that, you actually have to go out and get some leads, which means somebody said, hey, I want to find out what you guys do. Can you come out and take a look at my job? or a contractor, if you're a sub, says, hey, can you give me a bid, right? All of that represents things that will determine your future, because that is work you haven't landed yet. And then finally, you come to the ultimate activity that determines your future, which is what? Marketing, right? Because if you look at the most successful people on the planet, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, all of these guys, if you look at what they actually do, what are they doing all the time? They're out there promoting their company, right? Yeah, I mean, you've heard of Elon Musk, sleeping in his shop, but that's not his main job, right? His main job is to be out there promoting the business, being the face of the business, the proverbial, what do you call it? Shaking hands and kissing babies, right? So as a business owner, that's your actual job, which is to be out there promoting the business. Everything else that doesn't represent that, you have to get other people, you have to delegate that to other people as quickly as possible. Why? Because if you look at your past, how much of your past can you change? Obviously nothing, right? So if you cannot change it, should you be spending time on it? No, it's a complete waste of time, right? So get out of that as soon as you can. You should have gotten out of that yesterday, right? So that's the first thing. So when somebody works with us, the first thing we do is get them to line up all the activities that represent the past and hand it off. Delegate, train, teach, build procedures, SOPs, and get other people to do it. You can't do that fast enough. The second thing is now you're present. What's going on the job sites? Your foreman, field guys, interviewing, hiring people. All of those things are important, but again, not contributing to your future, because those are things that have already happened. They need to be done right. There's no question. So your job then, the next thing is you have to go hand off all the activities that represent the present. So this is where you start to really get into the meat and potatoes. Start building your training procedures, your SOPs. Start learning how to hire people properly. Start training your managers to learn how to hire people properly, so that all of the work that's going on in the field eventually is done by a trained team of people. And then finally get to the activities that represent your future, which is what? Sales and marketing. And there, most people, first of all, that is something you hand off last, because you can't screw that up, because otherwise you don't have a business, right? Then you have just a hobby. And so when we get to this stage, most people look at sales. They're like, oh, I need to hire a sales guy. Like, okay, but what you don't need is a sales guy. What you need is actually a sales function, which means there is a system that generates leads. There's a system that qualifies those leads, so that you're not just running around all over town, just dealing with tire kickers. And there's a system that then, schedules you, routes you, has a process of bidding and estimating, which you should also have eventually somebody do, a process of learning how to close deals, and then learning how to teach people how to close deals. Because what you want as an outcome of this is to have a sales team, somebody that is and managing that sales team, so that they can consistently generate future revenue for your business. And then your job is to, as quickly as you can, limit your activities to just being the face of the business. Because in any business, think about it, who has the highest level of credibility?
Yeah,
obviously the owner,
that's
right? So your job really is to go out there and promote the business. That's it, because there will be nobody better than you in doing that. And so as soon as the sooner I should say you get to that stage, the faster your business will grow. In fact, the more you do the other activities, you're actually harming your business, right? So I'll pause there, because as you can tell, I can just go on and on.
No, that's good. That's a lot of good stuff coming out of that. So, one of the things you got into, and this is a place I see so many trapped, is they get trapped in that present state.
Yes.
And sometimes that's this perfectionist mentality. Nobody does it better than you. And I think as business owners, we all are that way. Nobody does it better than me. So how do you get out of that mental trap? You're a perfectionist. You want to micromanage everything. What's kind of the guidance that you give to somebody that just keeps getting stuck in the operational minutia of day-to-day operations?
It's a mindset issue, right? You cannot give somebody advice around this. What you have to do is you have to help them come to what I call as an agreement with themselves. And that agreement is around, what do you want out of your business, right? Do you want your business to be your job? And it's surprising how many people say yes to that, because they're like, hey, this is my comfort zone, my security blanket, right? I get up in the morning, my wife says, get out of the house. I get out, I go to my work. I'm there from 7 in the whatever time you get there till 6. I feel good about it. I've done my job. I've earned my living. Then I go home, right? And I feel like I've, done something good. Okay, if that's what you want, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But just understand that all you're doing is just you just have a job.
Yeah, you created a job for
You
yourself.
just created a job for yourself. And again, nothing wrong with that. The only problem is you are in the worst spot of all. Because if you're an employee who has a job, you just clock out, you got no more problems, right? Every problem is somebody else's, right? But as a business owner, if that's what you call this space, and if you have a job, now you have the worst position, right? You're working all the time and you have all of the problems that you have to deal with. So essentially, you got double risk and only one reward. So going back to what I was saying is, you have to come to an understanding with yourself. What do I want this business to do for me? The reason most people start businesses is not because they wanted to work 16 hours a day, right? The reason they start businesses in the beginning was because at the back of their mind, they had an idea. Hey, if I do this, I take all these risks, I create a business, and if I do that and I succeed, I can create a much better life for myself and my family than I could ever do running a job or having a job, right? That's why we get into the space of starting businesses, of doing all the risks and taking on the hassles. However, once we get into the business, all of those thoughts go out the window. Now it's just a constant state of firefighting. Like, what problem do we have today? What employee issues do we have here? This, that, and the other. And now pretty much you're sucked into this vortex of this business that you thought you had, which is essentially a glorified job. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But if you actually want to go back to the original intent that you had when you started the business, which is you wanted to create a much better life for yourself and your family, maybe even generational wealth, for your kids and people down the road, and a much better space even for your employees, then you really have to understand that as a business owner, it is your responsibility to turn this thing into a business, into a self-sustaining business. And the example I give people just to understand, to contrast that is, we've all been to like a mom and pop coffee shop, right? Mom and pop are great, good to talk to. Donuts are amazing. People like going there. But if mom and pop are not working, guess how much money they're making? Obviously not. Okay. But we've also all been to a Starbucks. Do we even know if the owner of the Starbucks knows how to make coffee?
No.
We don't. That's not the point, right? Nobody goes to the Starbucks and says, I am not going to drink coffee because I don't see the owner. I want to talk to the owner. Nobody goes like that. And it's one of the most successful, biz companies in the world. And so the takeaway from that is that if you think that you're the only one that can do this job the way it's supposed to be done, that's simply delusional and simply padding your own ego. The reason you cannot get somebody else to do the work at the quality that's needed, because yes, quality work is important because it is your company and your reputation. Okay, that is your responsibility. But the reason you cannot get other people to perform at that level is because you don't understand something that Starbucks does. The value of systems, the value of procedures, which train people on those systems, and then the value of accountability, right? Of hiring and training and maintaining a good team. That is a skill set that's very different than being good at your trade. And so as a business owner, that's one of the most important skill sets you need to transition into while you're managing the present. Because eventually you will have to give that up as well to somebody else who can do it better than you. Right? Because your job as an owner, like we discussed, is to manage the what?
Go out, market.
Yep,
market those sales.
Right? So basically what I'm going through is that, there is a mental upgrade, consistent mental upgrade you have to go through as a business owner. And most people have no idea that this is what it takes, right? Because all they believe in is like, look, I work hard, I can put in more hours, I can be better at my job, I can, push my guys harder. Fine. But that's not taking you very far.
Exactly. Now, something you've mentioned a couple times that I think let's dive into a little bit. You've talked about mindset. I think sometimes mindset's an issue, and maybe you can elaborate on this because the business owner actually lacks clarity. They're not
Yes,
exactly sure what they want. It's this vague idea out there, but they've not taken the time to do the deep work to really figure out what do I really want? What does it take to get there?
exactly. I think you just hit the nail on the head. That is the source of all the problems. Is because the thing is, if you can't think right, you will never do right. Right? You might succeed by accident, but that's not something you want to like bet your whole life on. So the piece that you're mentioning that you're picking up on is the whole crucial factor in whether somebody succeeds in creating a great life for themselves or not. Because the way I describe it is this, that I say, okay, you need to visualize something like this is you, this is your business. First thing you need to understand, these are not the same thing. You are not your business. Okay. That sometimes is difficult for people to process because they're like, what do you mean? If I'm not there, there is no business. I am the business. If I don't run this thing, nothing happens. I'm like, yes, that's the problem because you merge these two things. Okay. You are not your business. What that means is you could shut this thing down, you would still exist. Right. So the point is, yes, you have a business. The important thing to understand, your business is a reflection of you. More importantly, like you're mentioning, your mindset. So what does that mean? How does this translate to the point which you just mentioned, which is crucial, which is clarity, right? You need to get clear, why did you start this business? And if you really start being honest with yourself, the reason you start this business is because you have some personal goals around the type of life you wanted to lead, right? That's why we all start businesses. We want to have better life in terms of, we want financial security. We want maybe a bigger house, fancy cars. We want to travel, free time. Some people want to give back to the community, do charitable work. We've had, our clients go to like Mexico, build water treatment plants, and go to Africa and do medical clinics, all sorts of things. It doesn't matter what the reasons are, but those are the important things to focus on because that lifestyle is what will drive you every single day if you focus on it. And the thing is, the clearer you are about this, if you wake up every single morning and you're like, look, the reason I woke up today is not to go out there and solve this employee problem or this client problem. The reason I woke up today, and I'm crystal clear about this, is because I want to create this life for myself. Okay. And that life is defined very clearly. Okay. If that is so clear, what will happen to your energy level?
It's going to
Obviously,
go up.
it'll go up, right?
Yep.
And the basic principle in life is success requires energy. That's a fundamental principle. Notice I did not say hard work, right? Hard work is needed from time to time, but hard work doesn't make you successful. I mean, look at the employees and, digging ditches. They work hard. They're not going anywhere, right? And so that is a fundamental thing you have to get clear about is that, look, success requires energy. As the owner of a company, your number one job is to be the guy that is fully in charge of your own energy level. Most people have no control over their energy because, in businesses, things are great and things are horrible and somewhere in between. And they allow the incidents that happen along the way to dictate how they feel. Today, I feel great because I got a check. Tomorrow, I feel horrible because nobody showed up at this job site, right? And if you're going like this, that's how your business will be too. So number one, like you mentioned, the clarity is, I have this business to create a life for myself. That's why I wake up every single morning. That allows me to keep a high energy level. And the second thing you have to do is around what you said was clarity. Get clear about what that life is. Because most people are like, once this business is successful, one day, then I'll have the money. Then I will create the life that I want for myself. Right? And they have no idea what that is. They're like, I'll figure it out when I get there. Okay. But the point is, if you have no clarity around where you're going, what are the chances you'll get there?
Yeah, you're not going to.
You're not going to. It's pretty poor, right? And so that's the other thing is like you just hit the nail on the head with a key word, which is clarity. And so you have to get crystal clear about where you're going and why, right? What type of life you're trying to create. Because the other principle around this, the second principle that's involved, is that clarity accelerates success, which is the clearer you are about where you're going, the faster you will get there. Okay. And the whole coaching process that we have, what is the whole point of it, right? Yeah, we call it business coaching, but the coaching process we have is not for the business. It is for the business owner to get to the life they want to live as quickly as possible. Their business is just a tool. The problem is when you're not clear, you just let the tool take over your life, right? And then you're just like this hardest working employee in the business. Okay, so hopefully I sort of clarified the question you were asking.
Absolutely. So let's talk through and we'll kind of land the plane here. So how does somebody assess, is it the right time to bring a coach into their life? You know, that's something that I think a lot of times business owners don't even think through. Do I really need a coach? So what is kind of that decision point? So for, if you were talking to somebody, they're telling you about their business and coaching is the thing that's going to be of great value to them. What's kind of that decision point for a business owner? When are they really ready to let somebody else speak into their life?
When they are ready for a change, right? Because a lot of people have problems, right? The problems are not, there's no scarcity. But most people are unwilling to do what it takes to fix their problems. And the way they get to a stage where they're ready to fix their problems is when they've just had it, right? They're like, I'm sick and tired of having the same problems over and over and over again. Now, some people could get there in a year. They're like, what the hell? It's been a year and I'm dealing with the same problems. Some people, it takes them 20 years to get there. Because they're like, yes, next year will be better. Tomorrow we'll fix this, right? But if you're not changing the thinking patterns, you're not going to change your behavior, which is never going to change your result. So the right time to get a business coach into your business is when you're like, look, I need to fix this and I need to create a much better life for myself. Okay? Because you have to get to a point where you're like, I'm willing to do what it takes, Because if you want to grow your business 10% or 20% or 30%, it's not a big deal. Just work harder. It'll get there, right? So if you want to do that, hey, I just need to make a little bit more money, fine. Just work harder. You'll make more money. I say that not offensively, but just to make a point. Any moron can work twice as hard and make twice as much money. That doesn't take intelligence, right? But if you want to make 10 times the money you're making now, then you don't have 10 times the amount of hours. So now you need something that you have no idea how that works. Because if you had an idea, you would have already done it, right? So if you get to a point where like, I need to get a much better life for myself, a much bigger business, but I don't know how. That's when you say, let me talk to a coach, especially somebody who's done this for hundreds of companies.
Excellent. And so along those lines, where can somebody learn more about your coaching services? Where can they learn more about you?
So best place, it's our website, thecontractorscoach.com. So it's plural, thecontractorscoach.com. And you go there, you can see stories from all the past clients we've had. Just like everybody, you can book a 30-minute call with us, talk to us, tell us about your business. We'll tell you if it's a good fit for what we do or not. And then if it is, you can then really start to get on the process and off to the races.
Excellent. And then you've got some additional resources as well, don't you? Podcast and a few other things.
Yes. Yeah, so we have a podcast. It's called Live the Dream. It's on Apple and everywhere. And the idea is if you have a business, you had a dream when you started the business, now is the time to actually live it and not just keep it as a dream, right? And so there's a Live the Dream podcast. The other most important thing you can do is actually assess the business. We have on our website, it's called the Power Model Assessment. And this is 20 questions about your business. And your job is to rank your business from 1 to 5. 5 means we're great. 1 means we're, I guess, not so great, right? And this will tell you exactly where your business is, in the stage of growth. Because it goes through the 5 stages every business goes through. Doesn't matter what business.
Perfect.
And so you should take that assessment. It'll give you a free report. You'll get a great sense of what to do next.
Excellent. Well, Karan, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to recording some more podcasts on some common topics that you and I both deal with in the days ahead. It's been great having you as our guest today.
Awesome, Carl. Nice being here too.
Thank you.